Kim reads, we're going to read The Bearenstain Bears and Too Much Vacation. Can a bear's vacation with more rain than sun end up being the one that's most fun? Well, that's everything, said Mama Bear as she and sister and brother held the car trunk lid down so that Papa Bear could tie it down. Not quite, said Papa, running back into the treehouse. We almost forgot the camera, he said when he reappeared. What good is a wonderful vacation without photographs to remember it by? Good thinking, Papa, said Brother. May I take some pictures when we get there? And what about me? Sister wanted to know. Of course you may, said Papa as they bundled into the car. We're all going to take pictures of the most wonderful vacation the Bear family has ever had. All right, now, everybody buckle up and we'll be on our way. 4 safety belts clicked into place, and they left their safe, comfortable treehouse and headed for the excitement and adventures of a vacation high up in the wilds of the Great Grizzly Mountains. It had been Papa's idea to take our vacation in the Great Grizzlies. It'll be a real wilderness experience. We'll live off the land. We're getting too soft here in the valley with all our supermarkets and other conveniences. When he saw the ad in the paper, there was no holding him. It said, try a wilderness vacation, a lovely mountain cabin complete with a rowboat by beautiful Crystal Lake. Ah, said Papa, painting beautiful word pictures. To wake up with the rising sun and catching our breakfast from a clear mountain lake. To bathe in its sparkling water. To snack on delicious wild berries as we tramp the mountain trails. To gaze at the beauty of a mountain sunset, then to sleep through the peace and quiet of a mountain night far from the noise of traffic and neighbors' barking dogs. It all sounded great to the cubs. What kind of fish will we catch, Papa? Asked Brother. Trout, no doubt, he answered with supreme confidence. But Mama wasn't so sure he could catch anything. So when she packed, she took along some canned goods in case the trout weren't biting, and some books and games in case of a rainy day. I can almost taste the fresh-caught trout, said Brother as the road led ever higher into the mountain forest. And I can almost taste those yummy wild berries, said Sister. And don't forget my terrific wilderness stew, said Papa as he turned into an even steeper road. But we didn't bring things for a stew, objected Mama. All we brought are some canned goods. Of course we didn't, laughed Papa. I'm talking about my special live-off-the-land survival stew. It's my secret recipe. I can make from bark, leaves, and roots that I find in the woods. When will we get there? Asked the cubs. Very soon. I can tell by the smell of the mountain air, said Papa, taking a deep breath. It's not mountain air, complained Brother, making a face at the skunk. Said Papa, wrinkling his nose. A good time to start taking pictures, thought Mama. Phew, said Papa. Click, said the camera. There's the cabin, shouted Sister as they rounded a bend. And there was indeed a mountain cabin beside the lake, complete with a rowboat. Of course, it wasn't quite what they had pictured from the ad. Crystal Lake looked more like mud soup. The lovely mountain cabin looked more like a tumble-down shack. There was a rowboat, all right, but it was half sunk in the lake. But Papa wasn't the beast lit and discouraged. He was more excited than ever. It's perfect, he shouted. The most perfect live-off-the-land vacation spot I've ever seen. Mama wasn't so sure. She noticed there were no wires leading into the cabin, which means there was no electricity. That's the last thing we need, scoffed Papa. What you need on a live-off-the-land vacation is plenty of can-do spirit, lots of forest smart, and I've got enough of those for all of us. He took a cooking pot and folding chair from the trunk. Here, he said, taking a seat for Mama, this is a vacation. You relax while I gather the fixings for my fabulous wilderness stew. And you two tidy up the cabin, he called to the cubs as he headed to the forest with the cooking pot. But Mama didn't expect too much relaxing on this vacation, and she wasn't surprised to find that the cabin was even worse mess on the inside than was outside. There was an ankle-deep carpet of twigs, branches, and leaves on the floor, and it was practically a museum of spiderwebs, cocoons, and mouse nests. Time for another picture, thought Mama. Scurry, scurry went the mice. Click went the camera. What's this? Asked Sister as she cleaned the leaves out of the sink. That's a hand pump for water, answered Mama. Just what I need. It was Papa back with his cooking pot full of strange-looking bark, leaves, and roots. A little water for my stew. He worked the handle. The pump gurgled and squeaked, and after a while began to squirt water, rusty brown water, but he wasn't discouraged. Just what I need for my stew, he said cheerfully. Ready-made gravy. He carried the pot outside, where he prepared a cooking fire. It was very exciting for the cubs, but Mama wasn't so sure. She made a fire in the fireplace and warmed up a supper of canned beans and dried honeycomb. When Papa cried, "Stew time," the cubs ran out for a first taste. Mama followed the camera. "Here's to living off the land," said Papa, holding up a big spoon of strange-looking stuff. Then he, brother, and sister each took a taste. "Yuck," said Sister. "Blech," said Brother. "Patooey," said Papa. "Click," said the camera. Mama's supper of beans and honeycomb proved very tasty. Papa stretched and yawned. "Now early to bed so I can get up on the sun and catch our breakfast." The sun did rise, and it was very beautiful, but Papa snored right through it. The frogs, cricket, and owls made such a racket during the night they hadn't fallen asleep until just before the rising sun lit the sky. Papa began to get a little discouraged when he went out to catch breakfast. The boat sank as soon as he stepped into it, and all he caught was a gloppy mudsucker who made sniffling noises and stared. "Snuffle, snuffle, glop," said the mudsucker. "Click," said the camera. It was Papa's turn to snap the picture when Mama and Papa tasted the wild berries. The thorns were something fierce, and the berries were so sour even the birds puckered. Later, there was a perfectly beautiful sunset, but the bear family didn't get to see too much of it. They were too busy swatting the swarms of hungry mountain mosquitoes that swooped in from the lake. "Live off the land, you say," shouted Mama as they ran for the cabin. "With all these thorns and mosquitoes, it's more like the land is living off us." It began to rain just as they reached the cabin, but the roof leaked badly, and pretty soon they had more leaks than they had pots and pans. They spent a miserable night. By morning, they were soaked to their fur, and there was a foot of water in the front stairwell. "Don't worry," said Papa. "The rain can't last forever, and just as soon as I sweep off the water..." Instead of Papa sweeping the water swept Papa out the door, down the muddy slope, and into the muddy, mucky lake. When Papa and the cubs reached him, he looked more like a mud ball than Papa Bear. "Say," he said, looking at them, I have a terrific idea. Let's go home." The bear family loaded the trunk, put the car top up, bundled into the car, and bumped and splashed down the mountain in the driving rain. The rain had stopped, and the sun had come out by the time they reached the village. They reached the valley. The treehouse had never looked so good to them as it did that day. The next day, Mama took the film to the camera store to be developed. When the pictures came back a few days later, the bear family wrote titles on them. They began to chuckle as they passed the pictures around. The chuckles grew into roaring laughter, and soon they were laughing so hard they cried. And ever so often through the years, they took all the pictures and have an absolutely wonderful time enjoying the worst vacation the bear family had ever had. And that's the end of that story. Thanks for listening.